Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Venkatraman from You Too Can Run. And for those who don't know about us, we like to call ourselves a one-stop shop for everything in running. We do stuff everything around running. We, do race management like we are doing for the Inorbit Durgam Cheruvu10K inaugural edition in Hyderabad, about which we'll talk later. We do registration, we do photography. We have a bunch of stuff around branding and brand services. We also do quite a bit on health and wellness for trainers. And of course, there is always the content and webinars like this. We like to bring fresh knowledge to the running community. So that's something about what you two can run is. I myself am an RRCA certified race director, and RRCA is Road Running Clubs of America, which is the premier organizations, SRO as it is called, self-regulatory organization for kind of controlling running within America. And I'm a RRCA certified race director and also a level 2 running coach, only Indian to be so. Been attending their conferences from a long time. And RRCA is the premier body, manages, does a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, in India, we don't have anything like that to kind of control the sport of running. We are still about 20 years behind as far as America is concerned. And that's a very brief this about RRCA. Today we have, and I have the pleasure of having Jean on the show. And good morning to you, Jean.
Good morning. How are
Good morning.
you?
Very fine. Thank you. Thank you for being on the show. And Jean is the executive director of RRCA, which means that we all run because she runs RRCA well. And running events run. I've been seeing her from the last 3 years when I've been going regularly to the conventions and meeting with her. She's a good athlete herself, triathlete, track athlete, went through some injuries like all of us, and is again coming back to running. And she basically controls running all over the USA in a nice way, in a benevolent way, not in a dictatorial way. Okay. And the purpose of today's webinar is to see how we can consider, now that things are opening up, we are coming to the new year. The year gone by was a very bad year. We don't even want to talk negative about it. Be positive is my view of life. And the idea is to see what are the best practices that RRCA has studied, recommended, what have they said, how events have conducted themselves in the USA for the benefit of those. I've been attending many of the RRCA webinars on this topic. I've also, because of RRCA membership, attending the World Athletics webinars, and they have one every week, almost every Friday they have one. So a whole lot of the running ecosystem is putting a lot of effort to see that running and running events come back. And our inaugural event, Inorbit Durgam Cheruvu10K, about which we'll talk a little bit later, is one such effort to bring running back, give runners the pleasure that they enjoy, which is the pleasure of coming back and running. And we will have Jean run us through what RRCA has done and how we can do, and then I will tell you about how we have done the design of Inorbit. And then, of course, it's open for questions. If you are on any of the channels, YouTube or Facebook, any of the channels that is being streamed to, you can type the chat window. The chat will come up, and myself or Jean will be happy to answer your question. But we'll keep that for later because sometimes we might be covering that in the portion of the talk. Very nice to have you on board. Welcome to the show, Jean. Welcome to the show, Jean. Good morning to you. Is it cold there in the US?
It is. It's cold and rainy
Oh my
where
God.
I'm at. I'm in Virginia, so it's
Okay.
not so nice.
Last week, I know there was a snowstorm in the Northeast. Did that affect you?
I'm sorry you cut out.
Oh, there was a snowstorm in the Northeast last week. Did that affect you?
No, because I was actually down in Florida where it was cool but tolerable. I
Lucky.
missed it.
Lucky. Good, good. Excellent. So, Jean, I know that you have been doing a lot uh, to kind of protect running and also keep the runners safe from COVID and to keep the event organizers safe from COVID and stuff. We would like to hear all that RRCA has recommended. over a period of time, studies. I mean, if you give us a high level view of what you have recommended for running events, and of course, I am aware that we always make this statement whenever we do a COVID related stuff, that all this information is true as of today, 4th of
Right.
January, 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time. It may change tomorrow.
Correct.
So everything is subject to that disclaimer. Yeah. So,
Correct.
so subject to that disclaimer, I would like you to run us through what are the high level issues in organizing running events because of COVID, and what are the workarounds that you have been doing, and what events in the USA you have seen which have come out, and there have been events that have been conducted, how have they adapted to the COVID norms?
I think what I found fascinating through COVID, one, it is
Mm,
something globally that everybody's learning about, right? We're all struggling and figuring out new ways to adapt and new and better ways and safer ways to operate. And so, what I've found, I think, refreshing is the level that people are working together, especially in the US and actually around the world,
mm,
to share best practices, to share things that they're learning as they're putting on events, or as new things about the disease are being learned, and then how can we adapt to continue to deliver the sport safely to everybody. So I've found it refreshing in such a difficult climate for the sport, that people are working together and people are figuring out how to adapt. And I think that's really important. And I think it says a lot about our sport, is that, I think we definitely have that ability to change and adapt and improve to make the best experience for runners. So, thinking back to March when everything first started, a lot of what we saw were people reverting to, just encouraging people to go run virtually and then maybe report back on a variety of different platforms that operate in the US. And I know there's a few that have operated globally, just to give people something to stay motivated to run for. And it's been fascinating that the concept of virtual events has been generally successful, at least in the United States, as a way to keep people engaged and motivated in the sport. We definitely feel there's a lot of pent up demand for live events, but I think everybody predominantly understands when it's safe to return, we will definitely see people returning in, similar, if not higher numbers than what we were seeing before the pandemic. So, I think right now we're in a still asking people to be patient for a return to live events. But I know in the US, we have had many race directors that have been able to successfully host what we would consider kind of smaller races, maybe less than 1,000 people, anywhere from the 200 to 500 person range. And, we've seen a variety of those around the United States that have been hosted successfully and have not seemed to had issues with virus spread. So I think that's important as well. Um, for us as an organization, what we've really tried to do is network with those race directors all over the country to understand what has worked, where are the challenges, and, continue to promote helping people get back to live and in-person events. So that's really been our focus. And as you said, I very much appreciate the information is current as of 8:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, because it is ever changing. Every something new is learned. We have to adapt, but I think people are very much in that mindset now, which is helpful, that you have to adapt quickly and respond quickly.
Correct. Um, there are two schools of thought. One is that runners don't want to come to mass participation events; they want to stay safe. They don't want to run. The other is they are looking forward. There's a pent up demand. And the minute you announce an event, they will be there. Because they all want that adrenaline fix. The junkies want that fix of, of the hormones rushing in. Okay. So between the two, what do you think? What do you see happening in the US?
I think that people who feel comfortable running in live events, they're going to sign up and run in live events. People that aren't ready to do so, um, I think there are a lot of people that are, once the vaccine is fully circulated within the country, I think people will have a high level of comfort coming back into the sport. So now we're a little bit dependent on the health experts to, kind of kick that effort into high gear. At least in the United States, the indications of the rollout has been a little bit slower than anticipated. But I think there are people that are going to be comfortable running events and they'll sign up. I mean, we've already seen that, with events that have happened between August and, this end of the year. So people are willing to come. And I think predominantly the people that are coming to events are also willing to follow the health and safety guidelines. They understand, I think, generally that they play an important role in the safe return to running. So, from the race directors I've talked to, they've had pretty good success with the majority of people, follow the guidelines that have been established to help keep everybody safe. So I think that's another key part of people having a higher comfort level with returning to the sport.
That's right. I agree with you. And we carried out a survey, very similar to the survey that you did. We had about 1,200, 1,300 respondents, which is fairly good. And we found that runners were willing to pay a little bit of a premium for a good event that had COVID-19 protocols in place. They also at the same time said that we don't want to spend too much on a running event because financial conditions and stuff. So they came out that they are willing to let go of the t-shirt, the medal, and all the other swag if we gave them a core essentials only kind of event, but with all the COVID protocols in place. So that kind of came out of that survey.
And our response was very similar as well. That again, I think everybody has knowledge and awareness of the environment that we're all trying to navigate through. And we very much saw the same thing, that people are willing to forego a t-shirt, forego a medal, because they understand that race directors need to put some more of their funds into health and safety protocols, which do have a cost associated. And so I really think people are willing to, get a little less for what they are used to paying for an event, to ensure that the race director is taking health and safety very seriously and investing money in health and safety. So we had a very similar response rate as well on that front. And same thing. One of the things we're seeing too is people. We typically in the United States have had a race registration is pretty much a non-refundable activity. If you sign up, you're basically saying, I'm going to come. And that money is going to be allocated to the costs associated with putting on an event. So that was very challenging in the United States, that when a lot of events had to be canceled with very little notice, a lot of that money had already been spent. So there just wasn't money necessarily to do refunds. So I think that is something that is going to be a kind of a big new factor in how race registration is done, especially as we start to, get a restart with events. We've seen some events that have tried to restart only to be like, oh, we might need to push it off for a couple of more months. So I think having a very solid plan for issuing refunds is another way that it's going to improve that consumer confidence. As you said, people are a little concerned about putting money out there, with a little bit of uncertainty whether the race will occur or not. What amenities will and won't be provided. So I think those are all things as race directors plan that they're going to be very important to factor in.
I agree. because of this uncertainty, people are not willing to make a commitment. That commitment, the desire to take part in the event is there, but the hesitation, we think, is there because one is that they're not sure if the COVID protocols are going to be followed. They got elderly parents at home, and they want to come. They don't want to catch it and bring it back home. They stayed safe for 8 9 months, and they did all the right things, and they want to be cautious as it is kind of getting out. They don't want to get into that second wave, which people fear. So that is the cause for hesitation. So they don't know how good the protocols will be. That is one. Second is they don't know if the event will be conducted at all. So they don't know what will happen to their money, and if that money doesn't come back, then what will happen to me, etc. So in India, we never forfeit the money, very rarely, because generally the culture is that either take a refund or hold it good for the next edition or whenever the edition gets done. So we don't kind of give the money back, but that is okay. People are okay. They understand that you try to put an event, but things didn't work in your favor. So that is what will happen here, and that is what we think. Race directors have a stronger need to communicate, not just the swag of the marketing. So we feel that communications have to change from swag-oriented communications, which was predominant, and this to more about technicals and COVID safety norms and safety assurance to the participant that the event will get done and will get done in COVID protocols, and these protocols are in place, etc. I think some events will have to set the benchmark and set the leadership role, and then slowly the runners will understand what happens and come back. Yesterday, for your information, we had a very leading, very on ground event, probably the first one post COVID in India. It was in a southern city of Chennai, but they hired a racetrack. They had an automobile racetrack, and it was 3.7 kilometers per loop, and the full marathon guys ran about 11 loops or something, and so on, and it was within a closed environment. They're very limited, about 1200 participants ran that event. But it's that's how we need to start doing events. The running community has to start getting that confidence that you can go to a running event and it will be safe and nice for you. That's what we think needs to happen to get runners back and running events back on the track. So coming back a little bit, what's your take on virtual events? Do you think that runners like them? They run because there's no other choice. We have had people who have been running within their houses, within their compound of where they live, within the building premises, maybe equivalent of running a full marathon in your backyard and stuff like that. So how has that worked out in the US? Jean, how has virtual events worked out in the US?
I think the virtual events, it's a mix. It's almost, I think there's different people use different mentalities for participating in those. Some people need it, they need that motivation of it's a goal, whether it's running in an event or it's, they feel associated with the event, so they're more likely to achieve the goal they've set for themselves. I think some people we're in a little bit of so many schedules are disrupted. So it's a way for people to say, well, I couldn't run that race on a Saturday, but I could do it on a Tuesday evening or, something. It helps people fit the event into maybe a busy schedule that they have or an altered schedule. I know so many places around the country, kids are, at home. So, it might be an opportunity for a parent to get away and, just kind of go out for a run and get the event in. I think it's also for maybe people who haven't run in events. It's a little bit of a first step to participate in an event without a little bit of that added stress of running in a live event for the very first time. So I think that we may see the virtual events or an opportunity to bring in some newer runners who will hopefully come to live events once, the world gets, hopefully healthy and a little bit more back to normal. So I think that there are people come at those from a variety of different mentalities, but it has been very interesting to see that they have filled a void that has been created this year from the virus. I do think moving forward that virtual events will become an integral part of live events as well, that there'll be the live event offering. And then for people who maybe, the weekend, they have other plans for that weekend, it will still provide them an opportunity to participate and be associated with a race that they may love. So I do see that we'll see it continue to be part of the sport.
Okay, same here. We also have felt that uh, live events have not been very successful. That is what we feel, because many runners feel that, hey, for running in my neighborhood a 10K or a 21K, why should I give you money? I can run that on my own. So only when there has been a strong loyalty factor, it's like the event has a certain branding of its own and has a strong brand connection, then the virtual event has been successful. But we have never got the numbers in the virtual event that we would have got on an on-ground event. That's what's been happening in the country, and we find that challenges, that is, run so many kilometers in so many weeks, or variations of those, and you have so many variations, find better responses, because people see more value in that than just a single day 10K or a 21K, which is basically a virtual virtualization of an on-ground event.
Yeah, and I think that that's true in the US too, that they don't get the same numbers that they would in a live event. I think there's something to be said about coming together and being with other people, and that motivation of running with others is strong. I mean, we're a little bit herd creatures, right? So I
Correct.
think that's why people do like the live events, and it does take, I think, a little bit of a different mindset to be motivated by the virtual events. I'll honestly, I haven't done one because I'll just go and do a 5K or do, like a 10K Tuesday. That, it just, for me, this year has been an interesting one because, as you said, we all have running injuries. It's kind of been that nice excuse to not do events while I work on some recovery issues with a little knee problem that has continued to progressively get better. So, even for me, it's been kind of good because it's forced me to, step back and focus on recovery versus going out and running races. So it's, I guess, a silver lining with all of it. But yeah, I think the virtual events, people will continue to participate in them because they have the anticipation of getting back to live events.
Correct. Same here. I took part in a very few, only to those events which have a very strong brand loyalty kind of events, and also um, the events which are on our own registration platform. So I have to be loyal to my own clients. So I ran those events, and then part of to see how the backend works. But otherwise, I didn't take part in much of virtual events at all. Though there are so many flavors that came out during this time. And somehow the idea of running within the house or within your backyard kind of thing never appealed to me, because running is all about being in the open and feeling the breeze on your face.
Exactly, exactly. But I still, I know in the US we still have a ways to go with recovery. So
Hmm.
going back to that, I took a step back and focused on recovery. I think that's one of the things that for runners that is an important message as well.
Hmm.
Work on core strength, work on flexibility, work on those things that you never take time to focus
Yeah.
on, which are all part of, helping you be a better, stronger runner, less
Hmm.
injury prone. So I feel like I've been very focused on, understanding what the race directors have gone through. But
Hmm.
there's also the other side of, what have runners gone through?
Hmm.
And how again, how do you keep them engaged in the sport? And I know in the US, when the pandemic started, the weather was nice.
Hmm.
And so you were seeing a lot of people getting out and about, and more so than normal. We in the US, we have a lot of cities have trail networks. And so those areas that are generally used by fitness enthusiasts just saw an explosion in use. Um, and I think it was that people were a little bit isolated, a little bit shut up at home. They wanted to get out. So, we've definitely seen a little bit of a boom in people getting out and exercising and running. So, we definitely hope that can translate into more participants in events when they come back online.
Yes, I was going to ask you. That was going to be my last question before we went into the design of the event. And the question is that are we going to see more runners once we open up? Because a lot of people have realized the value of good health and immunity after COVID.
I do think we will. The financial piece will be, I think, a continuing challenge because I think economically, so many people have been very harmed by the pandemic. So it will be a challenge for them to figure out how to pay entry fees. I know in the US, that'll be a concern. But there are a lot of opportunities to race in, I think events that are quite affordable. So, again, in the US, we have such a network of events throughout the country that offers, very informal, low key, very inexpensive events to, the more marquee, higher price point events. So I do think that we will see more people either get into the sport or return to the sport. Because I think that, we've always had a lot of people that have been engaged in the sport, and the pandemic was maybe a little bit of an opportunity for them to get back into the sport if they'd fallen out of it just from busy lifestyles or maybe, again, recovering from injury, that type of thing. So I'm optimistic that when things start to, return to a place that we can get people together, that we'll see an increase in participation. Because again, I think people are just they can't wait to get out and do things like this.
Same here, same here. I mean, I'm just dying to do a strong 10K.
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter how fast or slow you are, but you still want to do a strong 10K, and that feeling of getting poofed at the finish line is something that I'm wanting to get back.
And it's you can't quite get that with a virtual event, right? Because
That's right.
it's
Yeah.
just you pushing you, where at least you can be like, I'm gonna beat that person,
Hmm. Hmm.
that I've been trying to
You can
catch
chase
already.
somebody ahead of you, and then you overtake him, and then you chase somebody else ahead of you, and you overtake that
Exactly.
person. Yeah, and it keeps going on, and you push, and that really is what really makes all worth all that money.
Right.
Yeah. So, coming back, we had an overview. So, what has been your findings and recommendations to race directors in the design of the event? Shall we pull up the site where you got the executive summary? I'll pull it up.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, so this was put together by, a group of race directors with our organization involved, and you can scroll down. It's very much looking at how do you get races restarted? I think one of the critical items is you look at location and course design, because if you had a small space for a start line that you could cram a lot of people into, that's not going to work with a restart. So a lot of race directors are going to have to take a very hard look at their starting area and their finish area to make sure that they can keep people generally spaced apart. Um, and that's going to be key, is just to provide that little bit of extra space. And then runners need to respect that. If the race director is making significant efforts to keep people spaced apart, runners have to play a key role in following those race guidelines for where they start. If you're using a corral to limit numbers and keep people spaced apart, or we've had some races where they've been able to do time blocks where maybe they have a 6 a.m. start, 7 a.m. start, an 8 a.m. start. And if you're assigned to an 8 a.m. start, you can't be like, oh, I want to run earlier and show up. Like that, you're not being a good steward of the event and the health guidelines if you're, just not following those guidelines. So I think, again, it's really important, that is one of the critical areas that race directors have to look at is, can your start line accommodate keeping people generally, spaced apart a little bit? And, ideally everybody is going to be in that area wearing a mask. So, again, that's going to be a key area to do some spread control.
I agree. So let's can we look at some section 7 road race examples with social distancing? So that'll give most of the audience here and our race directors themselves, the organizers of running events, and this will get recorded, and for those who are watching this link will be part of the show notes. So you can always go back to this link. It's an open link that we are sharing from, and you can read it and go into depth. But let's look at some specific examples that you have put out. Again, I mean, it's always emerging, but it helps to have some examples.
And these do. Some of them are some videos that the race directors have put together, but if you scroll down, you can see some photos of some things that they've done. Trying to do as much as possible, some touchless check-in. We've seen some races that have done a really good job utilizing the plexiglass. So not sure in India, but in the US, it's become very prevalent with, kind of a plexiglass shield, and you just slip a number underneath it to give to a person. So trying to limit touch points of things, and then obviously having a lot of opportunities for people to access some hand sanitizer. That's another, important step that race directors are taking. Using tape lines to, kind of help give people that visual of how to stay, spread apart a little bit. I think all of those are important elements that have happened. And again, that using starting corrals where, you might, if you have that ability to get chunks of people to show up at different times, and even if it's staggered for like a half-hour increment or even 15-minute increments, anything that race directors can do, again, to just kind of limit that crush of people that you tend to get right at the very start of an event. And so I think that's, again, that's a key element with race directors. And again, that runners have got to take that active role in, being safe participants at the event. So if you're asked to come and wear a mask at the start, you do that and you keep it on. And, it's about a lot less about your personal preference and a lot more about protecting those around you and protecting yourself from others. So I think that's a key piece in the safety equation.
True. I think the real key is, of course, the design of the event and communication to the participants, setting the expectations right, telling them that it's going to be different, uh, giving that messaging time and again, and ultimately putting in place the mechanism to ensure that the event flow is as per the design that you have laid for the event. So I think that is this. About 2 weeks back, it's difficult to pull out now, but I know that in Shanghai Marathon, which is normally about 18,000 runners, they did a 9,000 runner socially distant this in Shanghai, which is China, and which is where from we got this whole problem to begin with. And they did a 9,000 runner event with all safety protocols in place, and that was pretty good presentation that was done on the WA platform. There was an event in Australia which also had about 5,000 runners, which also was done observing all the protocols. Um, I think the key is the start, the holding area, and the arrival is the holding area and the start, and then the finish, and then after the finish, how the dispersal happens. I think that is a key area, and a lot of planning has to go on there. And I've seen photographs of different events where they are either marked on the ground or they have put small flag poles on the ground to designate that this is where you need to be there, kind of things. And in China, I know that they have a statewide app. Every citizen is kind of controlled. They have far better, far stronger control mechanisms on the citizens. And all the runners who were taking part had to report their body temperature for 1 week before the event, and if their temperature went up, then they were obviously told not to show up for the event. So those kind of mechanisms were put in place. So we're seeing many new things emerge that are specific to one geography, but which may not necessarily apply in the other geography. Again, different countries are relaxing rules in different ways. In India, of course, we still have social distancing, mask, but we are slowly opening up, and some people don't follow. We also have the anti-maskers equivalent here, and it takes all kinds of people to make this work. So we have that, and we have pubs and nightclubs that get crowded than more than they should. But yes, on the other hand, we have many people who want to do things correctly and not put everybody at risk. Um, how generally has been the feedback from the runners after these events? I mean, have they taken it well, or are they saying that no, we'll never go back to this event again?
I will say predominantly the race directors who have put on races and that they've been safe, the feedback has been predominantly from runners. I feel really safe. I feel like they did a really good job, that, they made a significant effort to make it a safe, sanitary race. I've only heard, from one or two people that they ran a race and they were like, they didn't really do much. They probably could have, should have done a lot more. And, at the end of the day, the race directors who don't put any effort to improve health and safety, people will ultimately choose. And again, word of mouth is very powerful for marketing, both positive and negative. And if you're not making efforts, runners communicate a lot with each other. That information will get out there. So the more you can do as a race director to really show that you are putting, significant efforts into increasing health and safety for participants, as especially related to COVID. And it's kind of an interesting, because race directors have always been focused on health and safety. But now it's just, we've thrown one more added complexity into risk management with COVID. Some infectious disease has always been, one of those little boxes that you have to make sure, okay, that it's a potential threat. But obviously with this year, we've learned it's a much greater threat than I think people have put thought into. So, again, race directors who've always focused on health and safety and risk management, this is not going to be too complicated because it's just taking it, a little bit to, a next level. And those race directors have always operated in an area of, high regard for participants. It's the race directors who just don't put much effort into risk management. Like they're going to struggle through recovery. And again, runners, I think, are pretty discerning consumers. And so if they feel that the information, the pre-race information is very clear about what is expected of them as a participant and what a race director is doing to protect them, it will give them a level of comfort. And if they go and they run in that race and they see that, oh, they actually did everything they said they were going to do, I feel very safe running with that race director. I think that is a very key element to, retaining and improving consumer confidence as we continue to hopefully emerge from this.
That's right. I agree that one should walk the talk when it comes to design
Exactly.
events. Exactly. So coming back to what we have done for Inorbit from our side, I'm just telling you something that you too can run has done to bring running back into this country, and we are putting all of that into this event. Is that we wrote a SOP, a standard operating procedure, which we have been trying to get various health authorities interested in to see that running can reopen. We put all the stuff that we need to do from an Indian context, and that SOP has been vetted by a medical team that we work with, who the key person there is one Dr. Contractor, who's an ACSM board of directors. He's a cardiologist, exercise physiologist, who has been a medical director for the leading event in Bombay, was the Mumbai Marathon, and all that. So we done that, and we did an SOP for that, and we know that medically it is correct, and we are just reviewing that, and things keep changing, and stuff like that. So there is a question of the volunteers being COVID safe, and there's a question of the participants being, the event crew being COVID safe, and also the participants being COVID safe. Um, One thing that is more or less emerging is that everybody should have a mask, even crew all the time. Runners at the start line, during the race they may lower it, because they're running, and it's going to be dispersal. But once they finish, they'll again have to put the mask back on. I don't know how they will deal with the selfies, but that's going to be a challenge with the mask on selfies. But that's going to be a question mark area. So that is there. So in the Inorbit event that we're doing, it's from a mall. It's a shopping mall, a very large shopping mall. So and there is a parking arrival, and the parking is from the rear side. We are opening all the three parking levels, so that generally in a mall they tell you to put one level, and then they stack another level, and they stack another level. But in this case, we are stacking all the levels simultaneously, so that all people can come into the security. Okay, at the security there's of course be a metal detector, which we do as part of general this. And there is going to be an app which we have, which we are custom designing for this. So that app is going to link to the there's a contact tracing app the government has come out with, which is called Arogya Setu. So that mobile number of the participant is linked to the app, and that app can, as an API, pull. So if the guy is at risk, according to that app, then this our app will show up that this guy is at risk, based on where he went and what people he contacted. Of course, Bluetooth sharing, people criticize it's not doesn't work well, whatever it is, but it's the best we got, and we got to live with it. I mean, one might almost debate the usefulness of that app, but that app will show up. We also, in all our events, we put a barcode scanner. We put a barcode on the web, and that barcode is scanned by the tablet or the phone, and it shows up who's the guy who registered, because we don't want impersonalization, bandit runners, those kind of stuff. So we keep all that cheating out. So that is going to happen. And then the guy is going to have a temperature check, which is going to happen. And then, of course, there's a sanitizer. We ruled out baggage hold, because we don't want touch point we want to reduce. So that's something unfortunate, but we are assuming that most people will come in cars. They'll keep their baggage in the car. The car is in the parking lot, in the parking area of the shopping mall, so it'll be safe. It will not be, the burglaries that happens if you keep the car in an open street. So that will be safe. um, we are doing a what we call as a serial wave start, which means that we are not giving blocks of time like this, but we are giving everybody 15 minutes gap, and we are marking spaces all along the mall right up to the start line, which is which is the road outside the mall. So the stretching will happen as they keep advancing ahead, and every 5 seconds or 10 seconds, there are going to be six abreast. So the row of six going there, they'll all go to the next, to the next, to the next, and they will go out. We are simulating the flow, and we are designing a warm up routine that will come up on monitors, so people can get warmed up as they keep walking towards the finish line. Of course, they can use the toilets if they need to go to the toilet and come back. They can do that. There'll be some water, there'll be some medical for people. If guys come without a mask, you're going to keep mask and tell him to put one before he comes in. So we're going to do all those nice things. And so they'll walk to the this, and every 5 seconds or 10 seconds, the first six will go off. Okay. We are taking timings of the elite runners, so that we'll give them the flag position, and again there will be social distancing. One question that has come up technically, which I've asked the WA and they have not been clarified, is that in the open category, it cannot be the gun time, because you need to have that social distancing kind of thing. It cannot be the gun time. So technically, we are calling all categories as age categories. We are not considering any category as an open category, to kind of work around the WA guidelines for prize money. So we are doing that, and whoever is a fast runner, we are going to bring them in the front end, give them a head start with social distancing. So the 10K will get flagged off in this way. The 5K will come after 1 hour. They'll get flagged off. When they finish, we are giving them a packed breakfast, and we are keeping limited selfie zones and encouraging people to go this. So that mass warm up, which is a very typical thing that happens here. Everybody likes to warm up, and there's some Zumba girl there doing the Zumba, and all that will not be there. Okay, that will not be there. That will be avoided. When we finish, there'll be no prize distribution. Like, the stage is used for prize distribution. So the prize distribution, only the winners and some key people will go to a small place where social distancing will go, like a small auditorium, and the prizes will be given out there. And the others are expected to go back. The mall is going to be open, so all the shops will be open. There'll be some discounting. So the mall is being converted into a race day village kind of thing, post event village, and I'm sure the bars will give out beers for free and all that if you show up with a bib, which are all the nice things that everybody wants. so so that's all being worked in. So we want to make the event fun. We want to make it like back to normal kind of thing, but at the same time we want sanitization. The event crew will always have mask, and the face shield and the mask, sanitizer, rubber gloves all the time for event crew. And the expo, the 2 days before, when the pip collection happens, race day packs, we are telling them to come within 1 hour slots. So we are saying, do you want to come between 10 and 11 or 11 to 12? So choose, and then only that many can come in that time. So the idea is, again, there should be no social this, and we will fumigate the entire baggage, the bib distribution area, and fill the goodie bags with whatever we get, and put the bibs, and there are no the t-shirts and the everything, and then give them with rubber gloves out to the runners who come in this, and then again socially distance marking and all that we will do. We are going to do a lot of videos and educational stuff around this, so that the runners get educated, and therefore compliance is better.
I think that it sounds like you've got a great plan.
Yeah. So there's a question from Anil whether we will be couriering the bibs. Yes, we haven't thought of it yet, but yeah, we may courier, or we may allow bulk collection, or we may tell people to come to the expo in the mall. This, because many of the shops want to run sales as part of this event. They want to, like all the shoe stores and all the exercise equipment stores, they want to do all that. So runners might want to come, and because many of them may not have bought shoes, so this might be a good opportunity to buy some new pairs for the running season ahead. So we are not yet sure of whether we will courier them or not. But there's also a move here to avoid runners coming to the expo and couriering the bib to them, so that they don't have to come on pickup days. Normally the pickup is done one day
Mhm.
before or 2 days before. So what do you think? I mean, is there anything that you would recommend? Is there anything that you think we should have done differently?
It sounds like you've really planned and covered all you've really planned for the things that you're able to control. And that's what's important for a race director is, there are only so many things you can control, and that's what you have to try to plan for. And as we've hit on, the start line is critical to keep people spread apart as much as you can. The finish line is important to move people, just thank you for finishing, move along. Not bunching up too much at the end of the race. I think those are critical aspects. And as you touched on, that you won't necessarily have an open awards category. And I think that really speaks to, as a sport, there are certain concessions we have to make as we get back to being able to produce live events. And it's things like that awards and age group and open awards may be things that are a secondary offering once we've shown safely deliver events and people can run in events, and that they don't become spread activities. And so I think, just having people understand that the goal is not necessarily to give out awards at this point. The goal is to get people back to where they can run and participate and, maybe set a personal record, but they might not get a medal or a trophy or something like that, to with the restart of events. So I think that is an important aspect of it. But for those people that really do love to compete, they want to race hard, creating them as a group for, your first starting is important.
That's right. But the management, we wanted to give some prize money, because we also know that many athletes depend on small pickings
Mhm.
and run their houses, and many of them don't have good jobs, and financially they're in distress. So we felt that we should have some prize money to be given to the athletes who are good runners, and let them take some money, but let there be some prize money, was the thinking. So we thought that feeling of prize money should be there, but this open category and gun timing was an issue. So we decided to call all of them age categories and go when at timing.
I think it's a smart direction.
Yeah, that's why we're just kind of working around the rules of IAF, WA, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that's a hard one to get
Yeah,
used
but it
to.
doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, nobody's going to bother about it. It's not like a big event. The route is going to be AIM certified. So AIMS route distance 10K is going to be certified. The 5K is of course more like a fun event. It's not going to be timed event, but the 10K is going to be certified. It's going to be a proper event with proper prize money and proper distance categories, etc.
Yeah, I think it sounds like, you've really covered the key areas that you're able to control for, and at the end of the day, it's up to participants
Hmm.
to help ensure a safe event. That
Correct.
really comes down to, they've got to wear their masks at the start line when they're around a lot of other people. That first few feet when you are, leaving the start area until you're a little spread out, that you feel comfortable that you can pull your mask down, go and have a great run, and then start, as you see the finish line, get the mask pulled up. And I think, again, that's an important information to share with runners, that they play a key role in making the event safe as well.
Hmm. That's right. Amit Yadav, a good friend of mine, is on the chat box, and he says that we might design everything, but runners might not follow it.
Exactly.
But I do know that Amit probably doesn't know that in the Chennai Marathon, which happened on this Sunday, um, They made sure that photographers don't take photos of the official photographers. They refuse to take photographs of people in groups without masks. They
Yeah.
said, no, we will not do this.
And that is smart. Imagery is important right now. I know I've
Correct.
seen a few race directors have posted stuff
Hmm.
and they've gotten called out by people and they have to clarify, oh, this was from 2 years ago.
Hmm.
But you still, if you put a big group photo of runners without masks, you might send the impression of, oh, well, okay, we can all come and show up and not run in masks. Again, imagery plays an important role in how people will view the activity. And so I think that's a very important message.
I agree with you. And Amit, Amit, a good friend. Amit, there's only so much that we can do. Ultimately, it also depends upon the participants and their own awareness of safety. And if they don't, if they're not aware, and if they keep, breaching, and they can take photos on their own selfie, and they can say, to hell with COVID, and this anti-maskers, as they are called, are there everywhere. COVID idiots, as that the new term is, are there, and there's only so much you can do. I mean, you cannot drag them with the police. You cannot, take them home or whatever. But yes, there will be some people breaching, and the people who don't want to breach have to stay away from the people who are breaching. It's at their own risk. We will take every single step that we can take at a very granular level to see that this breach doesn't happen. But can we assure? The answer is it's all human behavior, and nobody can really ensure this. So Kranti is asking, when is that race announced? Kranti, the race is on Jan 24th. It's at Hyderabad. It's called the Inorbit Durgam Cheruvu10K. And the name, the Durgam is Durga, which is, a deity. Cheruvu means lake. And it's a bridge across the lake. And it's built just about 8 months back and it was inaugurated. So this is
Ooh,
going to be like the premier event across, let's
I
say,
had a
the
little
Golden Gate.
freeze.
Correct. Pardon? Yeah, you are there, Jill. So, so it's like a premier event that is going to be there across the bridge.
That is true.
Yeah. So, Jean, before we close off, I know you have the full day ahead of you. Thanks for taking the time on a Monday morning and being part of the webinar. It was very helpful to know what you have done, for you to give your feedback about what we could be doing. So if there are any last final words before we close the webinar. Jean, are you there? Jean, are you there?
Mm-mm.
Jean, any last final words before we close the webinar?
I was having some service issues. I think maybe it's resolved, but I appreciate you having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I very much look forward to a much better 2021 than 2020 from a sports standpoint in running. So again, I think what's important is we are all in this together to get back to a place where we can start running together in groups safely. So I appreciate all the efforts that you're doing to get a race going and all of the planning that is going on to deliver a safe race for your participants at the end of the month.
Thank you, Jean. And thank you very much for taking time out on a Monday morning and being here. And I hope to see you in May. Block my dates.
That would be great. Be great to catch up. And
For the annual convention.
I'll follow up at the end of the month to see how the race goes.
Sure. So there are one or two questions. any chances of having a similar event soon in Bombay? We don't know. The Andhra government has agreed to give us the permissions, and that is why we announced this event. Bombay is still open. Bombay is still not taken a decision. Somebody has chatted earlier about Mumbai Marathon. There's really no date at all open at all, though the AIM site carries a certain date. Can't say when it will happen in Bombay, but if you want the thrill of a good event, do come to Hyderabad. I will promise you that you will not be disappointed. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jean. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. See
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Stay safe,
Bye.
everyone.